We say housing should be affordable, but we also celebrate when homes become more expensive. We call one a crisis and the other an investment. That tension is rarely stated directly, but once you notice it, it becomes impossible to ignore. It is generally acknowledged that house prices are high in the United States and across much of the world because of a lack of supply of affordable housing. Basic economic laws of supply and demand tell us that, all else equal, when supply is constrained relative to demand, prices increase. While this is true, it's not a satisfying or insightful answer to the question of why buying a house is becoming so unaffordable. While several factors contribute to the housing affordability crisis, and reasons can vary from one region to another, there is one widespread and very important reason that, in my opinion, does not get the attention it deserves. To explore this reason, I'm going to reference one of the best explanations I've found of the deeper problem behind the housing affordability issue, from The Land Trap by Mike Bird. The reality of how land works leaves governments all around the world torn between irreconcilable goals. They are anxious to promote home ownership, which remains the aspiration of billions of families, just as it has been since the demise of feudalism. Let's pause here and discuss this part. In the context of the United States, this can be understood through the American dream, the idea that people of all classes can achieve upward mobility, freedom, and security if they work hard and have the will to succeed. This is often symbolized by freedom, financial security, and home ownership. Governments across the world, and especially in the United States, promote home ownership because it is viewed as a symbol of success and security. In other words, it is important for politicians to promise that they're going to improve housing affordability. Let's continue. At the same time, political leaders are desperate not to lose the support of the existing crop of owners, who are keen for the value of their real estate to rise. Unlike a century ago, homeowners now make up a majority of most developed countries and an even larger share of the voting population. Let's pause here. For a lot of people, especially in the United States, the value of their house is an important aspect of their wealth. For many, it has become a kind of common sense position. You buy a house and then at some point in the future you can sell it for a much higher price if you wanted and build extra wealth that way. Because people want the value of their house to keep going up, they often vote for, or at least fail to oppose, laws that contribute to supply issues through strict zoning rules. It is rare for people to reflect on where exactly this additional wealth is coming from that they're building. Let's finish the excerpt. It is impossible to achieve both mass home ownership and constant rapid increases in the value of land. I hope that by now you see where the contradiction or the irreconcilable goals lie. If we want, as a society, to allow others to become homeowners via having a system of affordable housing, we have to accept a lower rate of increase in the value of our house. Or we just accept that home ownership is not going to work for a lot of people, especially newcomers. Many of those who bought earlier benefited from timing and circumstances that later buyers simply do not have. This is what Mike Bird was referring to when he said, "The unmeritocratic nature of land ownership becomes increasingly obvious. This situation in no way, shape, or form constitutes the American dream." If we accept the status quo, we need to acknowledge that a major part of the wealth homeowners are building is in no small part at the expense of others not being able to own a home. We should think carefully about this. When a home increases in value, we should ask where that wealth is actually coming from. Are we truly earning it? Or is part of that gain created by a system that restricts others from having the same opportunity we had? We can see how this becomes a vicious cycle. Again, to be clear, I'm not saying that 100% of the increase in home values comes from artificial scarcity or restrictive housing policy, but it would be foolish to pretend that it isn't a very big part of it. Now let's take a look at an example of this excerpt playing out in real life.
I have to say one thing about housing, because nobody ever says this. I am very protective of people that already own a house, of which we have millions and millions and millions. And Every time you make it more and more and more affordable for somebody to buy a house cheaply, you're actually hurting the value of those houses, obviously, because the one thing works in tandem with the other. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the value of people that own a house who, for the first time in their lives, are walking around the streets of whatever city they're in, very proud that their house is worth $500,000, $600,000, $700,000.
That clip was from the World Economic Forum in January of 2026. You can see Trump clearly pandering to the voter base of existing homeowners while emphasizing the importance of the wealth they have built from home ownership and clearly acknowledging how making housing more affordable for newcomers is going to hurt the value for existing homeowners. Let's watch another one.
Again, existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can buy a home. We're going to make it easier to buy. We're going to get interest rates down. But I want to protect the people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like that they're wealthy people. And I want them to understand it. There's so much talk about, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen.
That clip was from an interview not long after the World Economic Forum. It is hard to see how this attitude can seriously address the housing affordability crisis. I hope it's clear that it makes zero sense to say that we're going to make it easier to buy, while in the same breath saying we don't want to drive house prices down, we want to drive them up. It is worth saying again, it is impossible to achieve mass home ownership while at the same time aiming to build even more wealth for existing homeowners. I want to leave you with one final thought. Envision a society where buying a house is not viewed as an asset or a vehicle for building wealth, but as a way to build a home for yourself and the people you love. Imagine a world where we don't fixate on the value of our own house, but instead ask how many people can actually afford to buy one. Because if the value of our own homes rise by making home ownership harder for others to reach, then we should ask whether that is really the dream we want to protect. Picture a society that recognizes home ownership as something every person should have a fair chance to pursue in their own search for life, liberty, and happiness.